Every single night, your muscles are starving while you sleep, and you have absolutely no clue why. You go to bed each night thinking your body's recovering, but the truth is far more surprising. I spent years eating cottage cheese every single night and somehow never got the results I desperately wanted and needed. A magazine back in 1999 told me that eating protein before bed would make me significantly more muscular and stronger. I believed every single word without ever questioning it once and paid a very costly price for that terrible mistake. Weeks turned into months, and I kept staring at the mirror, waiting for a transformation that simply never ever came. I was not getting bigger, not recovering faster, and I had absolutely no understanding of what was going so wrong. That frustration eventually planted a question deep inside my mind that would completely change my entire nutritional thinking and approach. What if the real problem was not protein before bed, but everything I was doing completely wrong about it entirely? That single question sent me down a research rabbit hole that took several very long years to fully understand completely. Today, I am sharing everything I discovered so you never have to waste years making exactly the same painful mistakes. Most people believe that protein is protein, and eating it at any time produces the exact same result inside you. That single assumption is one of the most expensive nutritional mistakes you can ever make for building serious quality muscle. Here is the truth that completely changes everything, and once you know it, nothing will ever look the same again. Not every protein source behaves the same way inside your body, and timing of digestion matters far more than expected. When you drink a whey protein shake, your body absorbs it incredibly fast, usually within just 60 minutes, completely gone. That fast absorption is powerful after training, when your muscles are desperately screaming for amino acids and need them instantly. But drinking whey protein right before bed is honestly one of the least effective decisions you can possibly ever make. By the time you hit your first deep sleep cycle, that whey protein is already completely gone from your body. Your muscles are left completely empty, waiting for amino acids that will simply never arrive through the entire long night. Casein protein works in a completely different way, and understanding that difference is the key to overnight serious muscle building. Casein is a slow-digesting milk protein that releases amino acids gradually over several hours rather than all at once. If whey is a rushing waterfall, then casein is a slow, steady river flowing quietly through your muscles all night. When you fall asleep, your body enters what scientists call a fasted state, where no new nutrients arrive from outside. That fasted window typically lasts anywhere from 6 to 8 full hours, depending on your very last meal and timing. During that entire window, your muscles are sitting in a nutritional desert with 0 amino acids arriving to help them. This is the real biological problem that eating the right protein before bed is specifically designed to powerfully solve overnight. The idea sounds simple, but the impact becomes truly profound when you actually apply it consistently and correctly every night. You give your body a slow-releasing protein before sleep, and it quietly feeds your muscles all through the night. Your muscles are being fed at midnight, at 2 in the morning, at 4 while you sleep deeply and peacefully. That sustained overnight delivery of amino acids is something your muscles have been missing out on for years probably now. Now, I want to be fully honest with you, because the science on protein timing is genuinely still actively debated. Some respected scientists argue that total daily protein intake is all that truly matters, and timing adds almost nothing significant.
But equally respected researchers argue that when you eat protein throughout the day significantly influences how your muscles actually grow. Brad Schoenfeld is one of the most credible researchers in muscle hypertrophy and strength science working in the world today. His research has explored both sides of the protein timing debate more deeply than almost any other scientist currently alive. When you examine his findings, something slightly uncomfortable but genuinely exciting begins to emerge clearly from the growing research data. The evidence leans toward timing mattering beyond just total intake, and the overnight window appears especially significant for muscle growth. Before you start panicking about timing every meal, let me be very clear about where timing fits in the picture. For most people, hitting a solid daily protein target is already 90% of the battle and most critically important. If you are consistently missing your daily protein goals, then nighttime optimization is frankly the very least of your problems. Get your total protein dialed in first, build that consistent habit, and only then add timing strategies carefully on top. But once your daily intake is solid, the overnight window becomes one of the most underrated opportunities available to you. Let me walk you through a study that permanently changed how I personally thought about nighttime protein consumption and timing. It was published in the International Journal of Exercise Science and ran for 8 full weeks using very experienced lifters. These were not beginners experiencing rapid newbie gains that happen early when any stimulus produces very dramatic results so quickly. These were people whose progress had naturally slowed because their bodies had already adapted to years of consistent hard training. The researchers divided them into 2 groups and gave both the exact same 54 grams of casein protein daily. The first group consumed all their casein protein in the morning, specifically before noon every single day for 8 weeks. The second group consumed the same amount of casein, but 90 minutes before going to sleep each and every night. Everything else was kept perfectly identical between the 2 groups, including training, diet, and sleep schedules throughout the entire study. At the end of 8 weeks, the researchers carefully measured how much lean muscle mass each group had actually gained. The morning group gained an average of 0.4 kilograms of lean muscle over the full 8-week study period. The evening group, eating casein 90 minutes before bed, gained a full 1.2 kilograms of lean muscle mass. That is 3 times more muscle from the exact same protein with 0 changes to training or total calories. 3 times more muscle simply by shifting when the protein was consumed and not changing a single other training variable. Now, the researchers technically noted this difference did not reach full statistical significance for the purposes of the academic paper, but I want you to sit with that number for a moment because 3 times more muscle is genuinely significant. Even falling just short of a statistical threshold in a paper, it still represents a meaningful and very real difference. It tells you there is real biological logic operating here, and your body genuinely responds differently to protein timing choices. Here is exactly why that happens, and understanding the biology makes this strategy feel completely logical and genuinely worth pursuing. When you sleep, your body enters its deepest repair mode, and growth hormone levels reach their highest natural daily peak. Your muscles were broken down during your training session, and they are desperately searching for raw materials to rebuild stronger. Providing casein protein before bed gives your body exactly the building blocks it needs when biological readiness to build peaks.
Amino acids from casein are still quietly releasing into your bloodstream hours after your eyes close and deep sleep arrives. That is genuinely powerful because it means your recovery is actively happening even when you are doing absolutely nothing consciously. Now, let us address the fear that holds so many people back from ever trying this strategy with real consistency. Many people are completely terrified that eating before bed will cause their body to store unwanted fat while they sleep. This fear makes intuitive sense on the surface, but completely falls apart the moment you look at actual research science. Protein has an almost negligible effect on your fasting insulin levels overnight compared to what carbohydrates actually do so dramatically. Insulin is the hormone that, when elevated, blocks the enzymes your body uses to access and burn stored body fat. When you eat a large bowl of pasta before bed, your insulin surges and fat burning essentially stops for hours. But a slow-digesting protein source like casein simply does not create that same dramatic hormonal spike through the night. This means you can have your bedtime protein without meaningfully interfering with your fat loss progress while you are sleeping. Here's an insight that most fitness influencers quietly overlook, and it completely reframes how you understand your overnight fast. Most people think their fasting window begins the exact moment they swallow their last bite of food each single evening. But what if the more accurate timer actually starts when your body finishes fully digesting that last thing you consumed?
Think about what that means, because it fundamentally changes everything about how you understand your overnight metabolic and hormonal state. If you eat whey protein before bed, it digests in 30 minutes and your biological fast starts almost immediately after. But if you eat cottage cheese with almond butter, that combination could take 2 to 3 full hours to digest. Your body is still actively processing that food at midnight and possibly still working on it at 1 or 2. Two people who both stopped eating at 10 o'clock are actually in completely different metabolic states by midnight every single night. One person is already 3 hours deep into a real fast, while the other is still mid-digestion and processing. The practical takeaway is to focus primarily on keeping your overnight insulin levels low and stable throughout the entire night. If your insulin remains low through the night, your fat-burning machinery stays fully operational and actively working for you. Slow-digesting proteins like casein do an excellent job of keeping overnight insulin stable and very well controlled for you. This creates a remarkable situation where you can simultaneously build muscle and protect fat loss during the very same night. Now, I want to share something personal because I made a critical mistake when I first tested this bedtime strategy. I went all in immediately and started consuming around 50 grams of protein just 30 minutes before getting into bed. I figured more protein closer to bedtime would logically produce more muscle-building signal, and the results would be impressive. What actually happened instead surprised me completely, and it taught me the single most important lesson I have ever learned. I would fall asleep normally, then wake up around 2 hours later feeling completely wired, alert, and strangely very restless. My heart was pounding harder than usual, and when I checked my heart rate, it was sitting at 75. For most people, 75 beats per minute during sleep sounds perfectly normal, and nothing appears even remotely wrong here. But my normal sleeping heart rate drops all the way down into the high 30s for deep, genuinely restorative recovery. Sitting at 75 meant my body was working very hard to digest and process all that late-consumed protein.
My digestive system was pulling energy away from deep recovery and redirecting it toward processing the large food amount consumed. Sleep quality was suffering dramatically, and the painful irony was that my muscle-building strategy was actively destroying my recovery. This is the single most important lesson I can offer you about the protein before bed approach, starting right now. If eating protein before bed in any way disrupts your sleep quality, you need to stop and completely reassess immediately. Sleep is without any question the most powerful recovery and muscle-building tool you will ever have complete access to. Nothing should ever be allowed to compromise your sleep quality, not protein timing, not any nutritional protocol you ever read. Deep, high-quality sleep is when your body releases the majority of its growth hormone and actively rebuilds muscle tissue. Without truly restorative sleep, even the most scientifically optimized protein timing strategy will fail to deliver meaningful results for you. The protein before bed approach only works when it fits seamlessly into your existing sleep routine without any real disruption. Now, let us talk about which protein sources actually make the most sense for this overnight muscle-building powerful strategy. Casein protein is the most studied and most discussed option specifically for optimizing the overnight muscle recovery and building window. Micellar casein specifically is considered the gold standard form and is widely available in quality protein powders at most retailers. But you absolutely do not need to spend money on expensive supplements to access the real benefits of casein protein. Cottage cheese is one of the best and most affordable natural sources of casein protein at any grocery store available. A single cup of cottage cheese delivers around 25 grams of high-quality, slow-releasing casein protein for you. Greek yogurt is another excellent option, providing casein protein alongside beneficial probiotics that support your gut health simultaneously each night.
Combining cottage cheese with Greek yogurt before bed gives you a powerful, slow-digesting protein base for overnight muscle recovery. Adding a small amount of healthy fat to your bedtime protein further slows digestion and extends the amino acid release. A tablespoon of almond butter or a small handful of walnuts alongside cottage cheese significantly benefits your entire overnight recovery. The fat delays gastric emptying slightly, which means protein trickles into your bloodstream over a much longer overnight recovery period. Milk protein is another solid natural option because whole milk contains approximately 80% casein and 20% fast whey. The whey fraction provides a fast amino acid pulse, while casein releases slowly for hours, creating a powerful dual action. A massive meta-analysis looked at 116 research papers with data from over 4,700 people. This enormous data set specifically examined which protein sources and timing windows produced the greatest improvements in lean muscle mass overall. The results were remarkably clear and consistent, pointing strongly in one very specific and actionable direction for nighttime protein consumption. Beef and milk protein were identified as the top performers for building muscle and strength across the widest sample size studied. The two most effective consumption windows identified across all that data were pre- and post-workout and right before bed. That massive body of evidence confirmed what the smaller 8-week Casein study had clearly suggested and powerfully shown already. This is not bro science from old bodybuilding forums and outdated magazines, but multiple layers of serious, legitimate scientific evidence. Multiple research teams using completely different methodologies have all converged on the exact same powerful and compelling scientific research conclusion.
Now, let us address the question that comes up constantly from people who practice intermittent fasting about bedtime protein use. I have practiced intermittent fasting extensively myself, and I genuinely believe it offers real benefits for fat loss and repair. But intermittent fasting and full muscle optimization can sometimes sit in slight tension with each other, depending on your goal. Adding protein before bed does shorten your overnight fast by a meaningful number of hours, and that is completely real. If muscle growth and performance are your top priorities right now, then bedtime protein should take clear and obvious priority. If fat loss and metabolic flexibility are your primary focus, then a longer overnight fast might actually serve you better. If you are somewhere in the middle, the only way to find your personal answer is to experiment honestly, carefully. Try the bedtime protein approach for 4 to 6 weeks while carefully monitoring sleep quality, strength, and body composition changes. If everything is improving, then the strategy is working well for your individual biology and you should confidently continue forward. If your sleep suffers, reduce the protein amount first before abandoning the strategy entirely, because dosing often matters far more. Dropping from 50 grams down to 25 or 30 and giving yourself 90 minutes before sleep resolves most issues. The goal is always to find the version of this strategy that maximizes muscle building without compromising your sleep quality. Here is a simple, practical game plan you can begin implementing tonight using food likely already sitting in your kitchen. About 90 minutes before you plan to fall asleep, prepare a simple but strategically effective bedtime protein combination right now. Start with half a cup to 1 full cup of cottage cheese as your slow-digesting casein protein solid base. Add a small scoop of whey protein concentrate to boost the leucine content, which triggers muscle protein synthesis most powerfully. Mix in a tablespoon of almond butter or a small handful of mixed nuts to add healthy and beneficial fat. Consume this combination 90 minutes before sleep and not 30 minutes before, because the timing gap matters incredibly for digestion. By the time your eyes close, your body has already begun processing the protein, and casein is releasing amino acids.
By 2 in the morning, your muscles are still being quietly fed while you are completely unconscious and deeply sleeping. By the time your alarm sounds 8 hours later, your body has been building muscle tissue throughout the entire night. That is a fundamentally different recovery outcome compared to going to bed on an empty stomach and simply just hoping. This does not require expensive supplements, a complicated meal prep routine, or any dramatic overhaul of your current nutrition approach. A tub of cottage cheese costs almost nothing, takes about 2 minutes to prepare, and is available absolutely everywhere globally. The version of me eating cottage cheese before bed years ago was accidentally doing something right, but missing the execution. He had no idea why it worked, when to eat it, how much to have, or what to combine it. Now you have all of that understanding clearly laid out, and you're fully equipped to execute this far smarter. Fitness progress is built through a long series of small, intelligent, consistent decisions repeated over months and years without stopping. Adding the right protein at the right time before bed is exactly that kind of small, high-leverage, powerful decision. It does not require perfection, expensive products, or completely rebuilding your diet from scratch to start seeing real, meaningful results. It requires a bowl of cottage cheese, a spoonful of almond butter, 90 minutes of patience, and complete, total consistency. Sleep deeply tonight. Protect your recovery above everything else. Feed your muscles through the night, and wake up already winning.